Hello, everyone. Welcome to the IMPRINT Explained. And today we're going to look at a topic which has been widely debated, and even in recent past, in a couple of weeks, we had a few articles about how do we reform the civil services. And it was normally targeted at the IAS and the IPS normally, but the Modi government has focused on something in a lot more holistic perspective, and they have given something today to us, that is Mission Karmayogi. So before we talk about it in detail, let's look at what Narendra Modi himself tweeted. So he says, Mission Karmayogi, the National Program for Civil Services Capacity Building, was approved in today's cabinet, and it will radically improve the human resource management practices in the government, and it was use scale and state-of-art infrastructure to augment the capacity of civil servants. So it talks about that. Now, when I read this, I'm reminded of a couple of chief secretaries of the Haryana government, which they talked about the fact that the human resource, the HR management practices in government are extremely poor. They are so backward that from the management perspective, if you talk to a professor of management in HR, you feel as if you are actually 150 years behind what is happening in the rest of the world. So a wonderful step, I would say. Further, in his second tweet, he said, the iGOT platform will enable the transition from a role-based HR management to a role-based HR management and continuous learning. So the idea is that we have a rule-based civil services, right? And this will be transformed, and we want to transform this, all right, to a role-based system. So we want to focus on role-based. And Mission Karmayogi would actually enable the civil servants for becoming more creative, constructive, innovative through transparency and technology, and hashtag civil services for new India. And this is C. Chandramoli, the DOPT secretary. Jitendra Singh is sitting with them with Prakash Javadkar and KS That Datwarilya. Okay. Let's continue. So now, one of the problems, of this government is its need for acronym. But obviously, for our exams, if you're preparing for UPSC or some other exam, they give you lovely acronyms. So the first acronym they give is P4, right? So what does P4? So it says proactive and polite, professional and progressive. So P4. Then it says E square. Now, normally I would say efficiency economy. It says energetic and enabling. So fit India, I would say in some ways. Then we have transparent type technology. We already talked about creative and constructive. Again, these two words were already used. Imaginative and innovative. So this is something again. So innovation is a necessary quality of a civil servant in India, I would say. Now, what does the National Program for Civil Services Capacity Building have? So it focuses on comprehensive reform of the capacity building apparatus at the individual, institutional, and process level for efficient public service delivery. There's a PM-led HR council which will approve and monitor the civil services capacity building plans. There's going to be a capacity building commission which will harmonize the training standards, create shared faculty, resources, and have supervisory role over all training institutes. A wholly owned SPV will operate the online learning platform and facilitate world-class learning content marketplace. Now, obviously, the idea is let's do everything online, and that's been the basic focus. So the integrated government online platform iGOT is going to help the Karmayogi. So somehow in this government right now, everybody wants to go online. And the Mission Karmayogi, the capacity building program, what would it do? Now, it will prescribe annual capacity building plan for departments. It will monitor the department's capacity building plan. Massive capacity building would be done to ensure efficient service delivery to people. It will promote technology-driven learning pedagogy. Second, it would strengthen the common foundations and remove department silos. And this has been a long-standing criticism of the Indian civil services, that it works in silos. It is very difficult to coordinate, even if in the same department in interstates. Then it would set benchmarks in learning for public servants. It would democratization of learning in all the categories. The idea would be it would not just be for the IAS or the IPS, but even the state services, even somebody who does not have the same rank could access these capacity building programs. Now, the question is, what ails? Now, so what ails civil services in India? Okay, so depending on the state, it changes, but there is a colonial legacy in civil services, right? There is a status quoist in the bureaucracy. There is a person who, there is a lot of red tapeism. Okay, there's not ease in doing business. There are too many forms, right? Then there a lot of them are called file pushers, right? So they just keep on filling, right? Sometimes there is something 2 lines to be written in a file and it's lying for weeks. A normal file takes 10 to 14 days if you go to a government department. So huge problems, I would say. If you think about it, what else is missing if you look in terms of reforms? The problem is, whenever we have tried to reform the civil services, so there's one step forward, 2 steps backward. So that has been the case with civil services reform. So let's see whether this happens. That's another thing. What about the other impediments which Mr. Chi Chandramoli talked about? He says there's a diverse, fragmented training landscape. So, you have Labasna, right? Then you have the Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel Academy. Then you have the NDT. This is Nagpur. Then you have in Bhopal. You have Faridabad. You have custom excise. Your audit accounts as in Shimla. So there's diverse and fragmented training landscape for even in the Indian civil services and the central services. Now, there's evolution of silos. Okay, so it prevents shared understanding of India's departmental aspiration. So the audit account department, works in a silo from the IS who he's auditing. Though obviously that was very good in the colonial times, it doesn't, understand what are the aspirations of India. Then there is inconsistent training priority and competency and pedagogy. People are trained to the level of their incompetence. Is something we call as Peter principle. Then there is a lack of common platform, barriers to exchange knowledge. It's very difficult for people to come and share knowledge. It's very difficult to have best practices being used everywhere. There is a lack of lifelong continuous learning environment in civil services. This is a huge problem. There's a redundancy and duplication of efforts, and this is massive in civil services, I would say. Now, what does this Mission Karmayogi look into? It wants to build a future-ready civil servant. He should have the right attitude, the skill and knowledge, and should be aligned to the vision of New India. So, what is this vision of New India? It basically focuses on 3 things. Number 1, the ease of living, so that there should be effective public service delivery for citizens. Number 2, ease of doing business. They should be creating policies and delivering services to make sure that economic growth happens. Then number 3, citizen-centricity. That at the end of the day, there has to be respectful interaction, problem-solving competency. There has to be an attitudinal change altogether, and people need to have subject matter expertise in their work. That is the idea, the 3 pillars. For the government official, he needs to be goal-driven. He needs to create behavioral competencies. Now, this goal orientation is something which, we normally in management terms, and we talk in NPM, right? New public management. And this is picked up from the 90s, Bill Clinton and so on. Then he needs to have domain and functional competencies. And normally he does have, it's normally the behavioral competencies and the goal orientation, which is lacking in normally in civil services. So we now in Mission Karmayogi would make India's own civil services competency framework. The focus will be to have understanding of what our aspirations are, what our national programs, what our priorities. Then we would actually focus on making the civil servant accountable and transparent through objective evaluation. Now, Till now, there's all the ACRs are very subjective. Now, scale of impact, global exemplar. The idea is that there were 30 lakh users in the first year in Mission Karmayogi. We want 2 crore plus, or maybe every person in the government to actually use Mission Karmayogi or to be a part of it. Now, what would it lead to? It would lead to a democratized civil service. It would be a siloless performance. And that would lead to 5 things. It will lead to a professional delivery, right? Performance driven and building competencies to deliver one's role. Then it will lead to professional growth. There will be growth driven, right? The idea would be to enable career progression and deliver different roles. Let's hope that promotions actually happen and lower bureaucracy after this. Personal growth, which is purpose driven, building competencies to achieve personal aspirations. Then there is knowledge driven. The idea is that to develop competencies to make people, these are civil servants, into leaders and subject matter experts. Then obviously, building competencies to achieve full potential. Now, this is wonderful. I would say this is something that we can use in Maslow, in public administration, in case you have this optional, right, in UPSC. This can be used as an example of Maslow's need hierarchy theory, and this can be used as an example. I would say that there's a question coming this year in public administration paper on this, definitely. Then Mission Karmayogi, what would be its program component? So we, in the beginning itself, I talked about the shift from rule to role. And there will be a competency framework attached, FRAC for it. There will be a credible autonomous institutional framework, and there will be institutional structure when we'll talk about that in more bit. Obviously, a digital program, iGOT Karmayogi, policy framework, which will enable policies to upgrade and harmonize capacity building. Then we focus on strategic HR management to deliver the right competencies. This is something very important, I would say, not done till now in the Indian civil services. Everything else is pretty much there, I would say, but HR management, I think, is very, very poor. Continuous performance, data-driven goal setting, and real-time monitoring. Now, what would be the institutional structure? So it would be a Prime Minister's HR Council, and then we have the Cabinet Coordination Unit, that is the Cabinet Secretariat. Then we have a Capacity Building Commission and the SPV. The SPV is basically to own and operate the iGOT. Okay, so this is here. And it would basically facilitate the world-class learning. The Cabinet Secretariat Coordination Unit will monitor progress and see the plans, whether they're being executed properly. The Commission will basically harmonize training standards, create shared faculty resources, and supervise the central training institutions. And the HR Council, basically is going to focus on providing strategic direction to the capacity building reforms. What's the outlay? They're going to spend something like 510 crores over 5 years. That's going to be funded through the SPV, where each civil servant will be charged rupees 431. Not much, I would say. Now, as we already talked about this, just to revise, accounting and transparency design, PMHR Council, Cabinet Secretary Coordination, Capacity Building Commission, and SPV. So this is a better image, right, than this one, I would say. The HR Council, who will be there? So obviously the Prime Minister, the political leadership, selected units. There'll be state chief ministers. There'll be thought leadership, eminent national and global accommodation thought leaders, industries, civil services leadership. Obviously the cabinet secretary should be a part of it. What would be the mandate of this? The idea is to provide strategic direction. What do we envision the Indian civil services to be in the next 30 years, next 50 years? That is the vision they will think about. And it would approve the Civil Services Capacity Building Program, and it will review reports submitted by the Capacity Building Commission. Now, what is the Capacity Building Commission? What would it do? It would drive standardizations, harmonization, and shared understanding of capacity building activities. And obviously, it will create the shared learning resources, internal, external faculty, resource centers, etc. It would define what would be the annual capacity building plan, and it will assist PM HR Council in approval of the plan. Then there'll be functional supervision of all the central training institutions. It will set norms for mid-career training programs right now. And for some services it's there, for some others it's not. It would analyze, learning-related data from iGOT Karmayogi. It would prepare the annual state of civil services report. What about the SPV now? The SPV will be a legal company under Section 8 of the Companies Act with 100% government ownership. There'll be a board of directors. Revenue model, as I said, will be self-sustaining. Key function would be to operate the online platform iGOT, Karmayogi on behalf of the government. It will operationalize a robust content ecosystem. It will manage the assessment and certification ecosystem. It will focus on marketing, outreach, and change management. It will manage governance data of its analysis, and will make them available to authorities. It will curate and deliver programs for capacity building of civil servants in other countries. What about the monitoring and evaluation framework? So there'll be a Prime Minister's dashboard, real-time reporting of capacity building KPIs, annual scorecards, ranking for departments would be there. Then there'll be a capacity building plan where there'll be goal setting. Annual plans submitted by departments will be aligned to national ambitions. It will not be in silos. It will not be what normally happens, that every department wants to have more budget, right? That will be stopped using this. Annual State of Civil Services report, a consolidated performance of civil services as a whole in a year with focus on achievements and contribution to national program. That is what's going to be a focus. What did we contribute in a year? Then we'll be into InterIndependent Audit, third-party audit of program, in addition to regular audit, quality assurance of capacity building by commission. That would be there. Okay, so that's going to be the major crux of it. Just to revise, Mission Karmayogi from rules-based to role-based. Emphasis on on-site learning, complementing off-site learning. It would be linking and training and development. It would be transforming training institutions in center of excellence. It would basically focus on a creation of a common learning ecosystem, and massive focus will be done on e-learning. That's the basic idea behind this. Okay, right? The idea is that we have there will be monitoring of KPIs. So what about the monitoring evaluation framework? The monitoring evaluation will be on KPIs, right? And the user will include the individual learner, the supervisor, the organizer, the peer group, the content provider, the creator, and the technology provider. So everybody will be involved in this. A dashboard and annual state of civil service report, as we talked about, will be even available to the Prime Minister to capture KPIs for all departments and agencies of the government for ensuring best learning outcomes. Okay, so that's the basic idea. 6 pillars, as we talked about. There'll be a policy framework, institutional framework, competency framework, a digital learning framework we talked about, electronic human resource management system, a monitoring evaluation framework. We talked about this as well. Okay. Now, what about the digital learning framework iGOT? Right. The idea is to provide anytime, anywhere learning to train 2.5 crore civil servants. So let's say a civil servant wants to learn about cybersecurity. He should be able to get a course on that. Content curation to evolve vibrant and world-class marketplace. Support by robust e-learning content, best-in-class content with Indian values, and to create continuous frictionless capacity building for civil servants. The idea is so much change is happening: AI, machine learning, deep learning, big data, new technology, quantum computing, whatever, right? The problem, is today that the civil servant needs to be aware of all these things. Especially, I would say, cybersecurity. A policeman needs to be very, very good at cybersecurity. I would say a hacking course is necessary for every policeman today. Then Mission Karmayogi, reasons for proposing changes in the training methodology and approaches. So democratized civil services, silo-less competition, obviously. The idea is that there should be linkages between the role and competency. And the reasons given, obviously, is the fact that there's the emergence of silos due to diverse training landscapes. There's redundancy, duplication of efforts. One department really doesn't know about the other. Deputation is very, very weak, or is done only for comfort, not done for actual learning. There's a difficulty in finding officials with the right competency of target, and that's why we need to go for lateral hiring, because we will not find people in the system who can actually handle big data, cybersecurity, the challenges of industrial revolution 4.0. How do I handle COVID, right? You don't find people in the civil services who can do this, and hence we need people from outside, or we need to train what we have. So this is what's going to happen. Finally, citizen centricity is something which is a problem. There is a very, very strong colonial legacy. There's a my bap culture, especially in rural India. Even in urban India, it's not that great. There needs to be a paradigm shift in the HR management system of civil services. There needs to ensure that the right person with the right competencies is at the right place. We need to make a civil servant more competent, more accountable, more responsive to the need of the people, and we need to usher a marked enhancement in the quality of governance, right? So finally we talk about the SPV. We have talked about its function and responsibilities, but what it's supposed to do? It's supposed to be vocal for local. So obviously it does that. It design implements digital platform. It would create, buy, and create content. It would deliver proctored independent assessments. There would be telemetry, database scoring, monitoring, and evaluation. There will be feedback assessment by AI. Evolvable and scalable platform would also be created in this. So the SPV also functions and responsibilities are clear in this. Right. Thank you for listening. Right. I think we'll get more and more details in the coming months about this. There was some overlap because I wanted to talk about the PPT and the images given by the Prime Minister at the same time. Okay. If there is something more to add, I would definitely add in a further video. Thank you so much.